And now, an XCW special presentation of Men of Honor Season 5.
Welcome to Men of Honor! Today, we're going to be talking about ladder matches and TLC matches in XCW. Our guest today competed in his first ladder match in October of 2015. The Catalyst Kevin Harris. A man who is no stranger to ladders. A man who has made a name for himself and even won his first XCW Championship in a TLC match. Chris Jones. A man who has faced Chris Jones in a TLC match for the XCW Championship, Corey Lee. And a man who has faced Chris Jones in a TLC match for the International Championship, Kenny Hazard Chaos.
And my career.
Alright. Ladder matches. What makes a ladder match or a TLC match so much more devastating than a regular singles match? What makes the ladder match stand out?
The ladder. It hurts. It's
The table. It hurts. The chair.
Really?
they all
No,
hurt.
it's because they're all made of metal. Okay.
No, the real thing is when you're in a TLC or / ladder match, it's all strategic. You just can't, me and Chris out there in a regular singles match. Yeah, I hit a cross contamination. Yeah, that keeps him down for 3 seconds.
Right.
Where in the ladder match, you don't have to keep him down for just 3 seconds. You have to keep him down long enough to climb the ladder. Whether it be for 10 seconds or, me being sluggish and climbing the ladder sucks.
Well, we went up that ladder at one time and went through light bulbs. It was awful.
I went through light bulbs.
10 minutes to get us up the fucking ladder.
I went through light bulbs. And then you smacked me with the other half.
Right. Well, the first ladder match in XCW history came all the way back in 2003 at Summer Mania 1. Unfortunately, none of you were there for it. But it was myself and Vapor. And I walked out of that match victorious. Because obviously Vapor's never won at Summer Mania. But his streak lives to this day. But it's, of course, the test of time because it was the first ever ladder match to take place in XCW history. I'm not going to say it's the greatest ladder match. I'm just not really ladder match material. I guess some people would argue that because if you look at the highlight reels, I kind of, some of the spots that myself and Chris were doing in that Money in the Bank a few years ago, and then there was a King of the Mountain that I was in that I did some weird shit. But I gotta give it to Vapor. Vapor has been in one of the ladder matches that stands out most to me that Vapor was in. You guys may remember this. Actually, all of you. Except for Harris, obviously. It was Crisis versus Vapor in a ladder match. VK2 or VK3 versus the Untouchables. And the Untouchables set up the ladder. Or set up the table, actually. Lit the table on fire. I think this is while you were leader. Lit the table on fire. And then Vapor and Crisis are fighting on the top of this ladder. Vapor bounced Crisis' face off this ladder. Crisis falls off the ladder through a table.
I don't remember the match.
I remember that.
It was gross.
He didn't seem like he enjoyed it very much.
Sounds like that hurt.
Now, in most cases, ladder matches are standout matches for Match of the Year candidates. Everybody loves to see a good old-fashioned ladder or TLC match. However, there is the possibility of a ladder match being the worst match on the card. What's the hell so funny?
He keeps grabbing that bottle and he's just like...
Oh, okay.
He's screwed down on it.
But, ladder matches can also be the worst matches on the card. Let's think back to, I may be wrong on who's in this match, but it was Matt Chitchell, Austin Chaos, I want to say Jesse Justice,
Brandon Hobbs, I think.
or was it Genocide?
There was one with Genocide. I remember they had
We
to
had to-
redo.
We had to completely do the match over. It was so bad.
I remember that.
And we were actually really excited because it had Brandon Hobbs, Matt Chitchell, and Austin Chaos in it.
And then it was terrible. Then it was terrible.
I mean, I know the weather didn't fare well in that either, but then there's ladder matches that are just completely forgotten. Psycho Circus Clown, Drago, what the DTC? Where the hell does anyone remember this match?
No.
Honestly,
I
no.
don't.
No.
But it's on the list. Apparently, it exists.
There's one on the list too. That on the list that probably one of the biggest groundbreaking
What the
ladder
fuck are
matches.
you doing?
The one between me and Cynical Halloween Havoc's on that list.
Well, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
And it all revolves around him.
I'm just looking through his list.
Fucking cocky.
Obviously, the ones that are on the list are the ones that I was going to touch base about that I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
But anyway,
Don't be a dick,
let's
yeah.
talk about the first TLC match. And it's the ladder. It's a variation of a ladder match. DTC, Chris Jones in 2005 agreed. They competed.
2005. It was
Good
2004.
little touch.
2004, yes. 2004, DTC, Chris Jones, VK2, MPG, at the biggest time of in XCW. I mean, 2004 has always been a standout in everybody's mind. That was the first TLC match. What can you recall from this first ever TLC match? And DTC was hot back then.
It helped push the establish me as a part of MPG, and it helped establish the VK2 MPG against Genocide as well, because we did attack him in that same show, I do believe.
Yeah.
And it was me capturing my first world championship.
Do you think that made Chris Jones a star? Or was Chris
No.
already a star?
I don't know if, Chris had just really came into it. He's still kind of new. So,
And to capture an XCW championship in the first ever TLC match within the first
3 months.
3, 4, 5 months he was there.
Yeah. It kind of just...
It's 4 months, actually. April, May, June, July.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's Chris Jones. We all know now what Chris Jones has done, what he can do. So, yeah, I guess it would jumpstart Chris Jones, I guess.
Do you, in your guys' opinion, think that a ladder match is the ultimate match when it pertains to a championship? Is it the ultimate match to end it all? Does that really prove who the better man is in a feud? Because it's made some pretty history-making scenarios.
It's personally my favorite way to end a feud. But sometimes feuds that you think are going to be ended with that TLC match never end either. And it shows, I mean, you got to climb that ladder, grab that championship, reach your goal, and show you're better than your other opponent. Then you got stuff like last man standing matches, whereas keep them down for a 10 count or an I quit match. Make them say you're quit and prove you're a better man. I think everybody has their own personal opinion, but in my opinion, I think a TLC match is a way to end a feud.
Here's one of those ladder matches that may be long forgotten, but was crucial in developing what, when you think of a title picture, this match made what would eventually become our championships now in the XCW important. The match scene: Grim Reaper, Sick Nick Cheney, Dynamite DTC, and Blade Jr. They faced off in a ladder match that was supposed to have LOL in it. They faced off in a ladder match. The winner took possession of both the XCW Television Championships and the Cruiserweight Championships to make it the Cruiserweight X Division Championship, which later was defunct and then became the New Age Championship. That really molded XCW into what it is today. How crucial is that match and a ladder match, and why doesn't it stand the test of time as opposed to some of the other ladder matches?
For the simple fact it didn't have the star power.
But it has Blade Jr., a.k.a. Dylan Bostic.
Who's Blade Jr. then to where he was when he finished.
Right.
Like, it had... Okay, your star in that match is obviously Blade Jr., Dylan
Who
Bostic.
won the match.
But it had Grim Reaper, Sick Nick Cheney, who never really amounted to much. Now, you put the LOL into that, where he was supposed to be, maybe it stands the test of where we're talking about it still to this day.
And there was a lot of spots that were kind of canceled because LOL wasn't in that match.
Right. So you think, as important as this may be for championship purposes, it would have been more important had LOL made the match. Aren't the chairs supposed to be under the table?
Hippopotamus.
Yeah. A ladder match that most people don't think about being a ladder match. Here's another one of those it's not a forgotten match. It's a very well-known match. But it's overshadowed by something else. We're talking about Chris Jones, Cynical, Halloween Havoc 2004. But it's overshadowed by the Flaming Table.
First ever Flaming Table. That was set on fire by what? Just regular charcoal fluid
Charcoal fluid.
instead of lighter fluid.
Caught Cynical's ass on
You
fire.
want to set something on fire, that's the way to go.
Well, you know, we didn't buy our weapons back then. We stole them, so...
I'm sure we could have stole some fucking
Lighter fluid.
I'm not even the one that stole the charcoal fluid.
No, I think I was. But that was just one of those matches that stood the test of time, but didn't stand the test of time as a ladder match. But in this list, what we're talking about right now is crucial. Ladder match was a big deal.
And I think it helped Cynical come into his character more. Because after that, I do believe he kind of went away from wrestling me. And didn't he move on and start wrestling? Ended up feuding you, didn't he?
Shortly thereafter, yeah, I believe so.
Do you need a fucking cough drop?
Fuck you,
But
bitch.
yeah, it really it stands out not because of the chip ladder and all that, but it was one of the matches that, you know, the cut of the hand,
Right.
you know, that stuff overshadows, you know, the wrestling that was in the match and this and that. But it did jumpstart more of a Cynical career. Chris Jones, it really catapulted him. You know, that feud is what you think of, you know, when you think of Chris Jones or Cynical. And that was probably the match that did it.
The interesting thing is that a ladder match or a TLC match, neither have ever headlined a Summer Mania as the main event since Summer Mania 1. Another match that wasn't exactly a headliner, but was not as important, but it was who was in the match and what it meant. I'm talking about at the farewell show, we see Genocide and Rob Slater in a ladder match for the International Championship. But does it stand up? If the farewell show were it, would that be what your lasting impression of a ladder match to be?
No. It was not a very good match. Rob Slater was not up to par to what we were.
I agree with that.
And
Still isn't.
and Genocide has a terrible fear of heights. And that's hard to do
Because
in
he's
a
so
ladder
close to
match.
the ground.
And that's hard to do in a ladder match, so I wouldn't want that to be our last ladder match. Which is, I'm kind of glad it wasn't. It was the next show that we had a really standout ladder match. So
And that's what we're going to talk about next. Fletch, Chris Jones, Cynical, ladder match. And even see Chris jump off a roof onto Cynical on a ladder set up.
People still talk about that. I when I go to Wendy's, that's Steve Davis. you talk to him about wrestling. He's like, I remember when Chris jumped off the roof of Barb's house. Ryan's laying on a ladder. He's an idiot. The whole match was amazing. Not just the spots with the ladder.
Do you think that it was better than the farewell match?
I think it could be for the simple fact that you put it in the ladder.
Right.
Just for that fact,
I
the wrestling ability,
I remember taking a Jones bomb on a ladder.
the wrestling that was in the matches would be par, would be the same. But you add in that ladder, I think that's what catapulted it. And then the screw job at the end of Chris and myself.
Right.
That whole year.
I think that's what catapults that one above the farewell.
And there was a lot of nasty spots in that match, nasty bumps and
That
everything.
Guitar Hero guitar.
Let's fast forward a little bit so that we can get these guys a little more involved.
I know, you kind of feel sorry for him.
No, that's okay, guys. Take your time.
Yeah.
In 2015, we had a ladder match that you're just kind of like, this ladder match isn't going to be that important. In my opinion, it ended up being a great match. It was sort of a standout for the year. Almost made the match of the year list. And I'm talking about Dorgon, DTC, and LOL for the number one contendership to face the Extreme Champion. At the time was James Kirky. With DTC had a career. Like, DTC up until, I would say, 2009?
Yeah.
Was probably one of the most stand-up guys in XCW. He was as big of a star as some of the guys sitting at this table. Which is why he participated in the TLC match with Chris Jones in 2004. DTC had been on a hiatus and just come back. And he needed a match like this to reboost his career. And it eventually led to his first championship in how many years? 4 or 5 years? So, was this match, how important was it for Dorgon, DTC, and LOL, who Dorgon you don't see much of, LOL, who eventually later on became XCW champion, and almost a resurgence of what DTC's career ended up being in 2015. How important was this match? How crucial? And for the fact that it was as good as it was.
Well, considering the fact who you have in it, with LOL and DTC as it is,
Right.
you can put them out there at any time, you're going to get a standout match. Then you throw someone as, as like Dorgon, who's stupid and will do things just as much as the next guy. And it still stands out for the simple fact that wrestling that happened in the match, not what happened with the ladder. And what it did for them is give DTC the next step that he needed again.
It is kind of like DTC's final hurrah at XCW.
And he wasn't the only one that needed extra pushback. Dorgon's kind of been in, out, in, out. If Dorgon would have won that match,
What would it have done for Dorgon?
Push Dorgon back to the show. And LOL had come off, the thing with Hazard, ended up losing the championship to Void. LOL needed a morale booster as well.
Right. So LOL is almost using this match as a redemption way of getting his Extreme Championship back, which didn't work in his favor, but then again, he later won ST3. So, what do you think?
Well, I agree with both you and Hazard. I mean, I feel this was really big for DTC since, he hasn't had a championship in a long time. He hasn't won any really big matches like this in the longest of time.
Right.
I mean, it was a good match for LOL, but like you said, LOL went on to win ST3, so it wasn't that big of a deal or for a loss for him.
Right.
And Dorgon, on the other hand, I mean, he, like everybody else said, been in and out. It's something he could have had and needed to help boost his career in the right direction again, but maybe it worked better out for DTC since he really needed that push.
What do you think?
I agree with them as well. It gave DTC the push that he needed to come back. A few shows afterwards, he ended up being one of the tag team champions with myself.
Right.
And I believe that ladder match and the job that he did in the ladder match, the performance that he made, is what gave him that push to be able to jump in that spot.
Here's something ironic. Very ironic. That was almost like DTC's homecoming. That was almost like his return back, because he won that match and he got his contendership. And though he came up short in a match against James Gerke for the championship that he won contendership of, like we all said, it was a jump start. Here's the ironic thing. His exit in the XCW, his last match, was the Money in the Bank ladder match. The show prior to that was the Movement and All the King's Men in a ladder match for the tag team championships. Is DTC defined by this ladder match?
I'd say he's one of the few people that is. He can go in here and put on an incredible match with the ladder. I mean, he's done some crazy stuff off the ladder. Even if he doesn't go all the way to the top sometimes, he still does some crazy stuff. I mean, that tag team match between All the King's Men and the Movement was a great match.
Absolutely.
It was a really good match. And then you had the...
Plus it catapult the Movement in a huge push forward in the tag team division with already being an unlikely team of Genocide LOL. That pushed them into the next level. They're the tag team champions now, as we speak. What do you guys think? I mean...
like Corey Lee said, it was a great match. DTC.
What did it do for you in your career?
I mean, even though me and DTC lost the tag team titles, but having that expansion of that match and wrestling with who I was able to wrestle with, it pushed me forward. I'm sitting here right now as the Extreme Champion. Going into the 2016 season, I'm the Extreme Champion. But going back to the ladder match,
what's your thought process? That was your... We may not remember what our first ladder matches were like. It's been so long.
Right.
You just recently went into your first ladder match. What's the thought process on that?
Well, I mean, there's something that y'all probably don't know about Kevin Harris, but I'm scared of heights too. So when I was up at the top of the ladder and I was being thrown off the ladder, it was kind of experience. And that was planned, through the whole match. So it was sitting in the back of my head of, I'm about to be thrown off a ladder, and I'm scared of heights. I don't like being up this high. So
right.
this is gonna be different. It could either end up as, Kevin Harris will drop down because he got injured and go on somewhere, or since I know the tag team titles are going to go elsewhere, it could be a push for Kevin Harris later on in his career, which thankfully that's what it was.
Not to mention that you were going into the match already hurt with an elbow.
Right, exactly.
So you mentioned the ladders defining DTC, I think. Specifically,
or did DCC define the ladder?
I think everybody's defined by a specific genre of match per se. Like Hazard, he's got the death match.
Right.
Me and DTC, I think we're both defined by the ladder. Me and DTC, you remember we had the big 20-foot ladder to even try to do some experiments with that, see what we could do with that. And then everybody's just defined by that one particular thing, and I think that's me and DTC. So, granted, it was DTC's exit. There's benefits from that. Kevin Harris becoming the superstar that he is.
Right.
Allowed the Genocide and LOL to be pushed into that big tag team spot. Everybody's got the thing that defines them, and DTC is defined by the ladder.
Do you think that obviously there's a distinct advantage in a ladder match by height? Okay, obviously.
Yeah.
It's easier to grab what
Right.
you're trying to acquire. But Hazard made a comment earlier that his sluggish fat ass trying to climb up a ladder. Obviously, that's a disadvantage.
Right.
So, you have not only your size that could be sluggish, you also had the height that was an advantage. That's what it's going to lead us to this. Kenny Hazard Chaos, Chris Jones, in a TLC match in 2009. I believe it was Greed. You guys were the main event over me and Cynical
Which was
for the
for
XCW
XCW.
Championship. Right.
And it was big. It had been leading up all year. You mentioned getting screwed at the
Right,
triple
which
threat
was a
ladder.
whole half season later.
And then, we had the Texas Bull Rope match, everything. It led up to this big thing. It's Hazard's championship on the line versus my career on the line.
Yeah, because you said if you did not win the international championship that night,
I was
you were done. And you were representing Chauvel Heat to the fullest. You
face heel. How ironic.
Yeah.
So going into that match, exactly what
You were in the Canadian Army at the time.
I normally know your thought processes, but knowing your championship versus my career, whereas we just had, your championship and your career on the line.
I don't like heights, but having a height advantage, I don't have to climb as high as someone like Chris Jones.
Right.
So me being slower, I still have the advantage of being able to reach it from the third rung, where he has to reach it from the fifth rung. But it's Chris Jones's match. It's hard to beat Chris Jones in a TLC match. He goes into a whole other state of mind in a
Right.
TLC match. So when you're out there wrestling Chris in a TLC match, you have to completely redo your thought process. Where if me and you're going into a TLC match, I had to think of something different as I can go against him too with.
Right.
But him, on the other hand, you have to do something completely different. But it's hard.
How do you prepare for a ladder match? Like, you know how to prepare for your opponent's moves. Like, you know if you could find a way to counter Corey Lee's finisher, then you're going to find a way to defeat him. Like, you have found a way to counter the FML. And then you would eventually turn that into your own finishing move and defeat Corey Lee. Everyone's found a way to maneuver around Chris Jones' super kicks. you study each other's tapes to find out new ways to get around certain moves. How do you prepare for a ladder match? Well, what's your game plan?
Well, particularly going into ladder match, it gets to add, especially for me, it adds a whole new variety of what I can do to my opponent. Because I'm not afraid of heights.
Right.
I'm not afraid to do something stupid off the ladder. And then it does change my thought process per se, though, because when I'm climbing up that ladder and I think, am I going to be able to get that championship before Hazard, Corey Lee, Kevin Harris, before they can stop me?
Right.
That's what mine. Should I jump off this ladder? Should that be my corkscrew? Should that be my frog splash? Which leads to some people possibly, that could make mistakes. What if I jump off and corkscrew, frog splash, whatever, and miss? Hazard would have climbed up and lost. I would be in XCW.
That leads us to this. One of the most important ladder matches in XCW's history. Chris Jones, at a time when he was trying to find a way to maneuver himself and to be the leader, the ruler in XCW, the owner, per se. Even later on doing the thing with EBW. He created his own championship. His own XCW championship. He claimed he was co-GM at the time. And he created this championship because he said that he was the true XCW champion. However, champion Corey Lee had earned his championship. This led to a TLC match between Corey Lee and Chris Jones. The winner took all. And this is right before SummerMania, on top of all of this. The biggest match in XCW history, TLC, for the undisputed championship. The first time that there's ever been two world titles in XCW's history. What about this match?
Well, I do know that when me and Chris Jones are in a ladder match, we do go all out.
And you're in any match.
Yes, that is true. Any match.
Every time I see, every time I picture Corey Lee versus Chris Jones, why do I think of the
radiator?
The sobriety plunge into the crutches,
The funny thing is, that's actually my idea to take that. It makes no fucking sense.
or the FML off the shed, or
This is on a different topic, but I think most of the moves that you do in a match is your idea. Whether they're being done to you or if they're done to somebody else. Most of those moves are your idea. Except for that power bomb under the table, that was your idea.
That was your idea. The power bomb was my idea. The running power bomb was his idea.
Either way, thank you guys.
It comes with the point of experience. We know what you like, we know what we like, we know what we can take, we pretty much know the extent of what our opponents are willing to do. So going into this match with Corey Lee, and I'll let him get back to talking about it. I actually had to change my whole mindset, because this is the undisputed championship on the line. I'm trying to exert myself out there to be, like you said, the ruler of XCW. I want control. That's just the Chris Jones character. So, I tried some stuff I didn't normally do, and with the ending of the match, you coming out, interfering, it pushed me and Corey Lee different directions. Him, obviously, as the undisputed champion, it pushed us into our SummerMania match.
how significant was the fact that it was the undisputed title, and then for you to be truly the first and only undisputed champion?
Well, I think that probably really solidified my career there and already solidified me as a potential future. First ever undisputed champion. And I went against Chris Jones in a TLC match. You may have interfered, but I still won.
Right.
And we both went out there and put our bodies on the line for that match.
And you and I have pretty much have wrestled for almost every championship against each other.
And then you went on later that year, or just a few shows later, defended the championship successfully at SummerMania, which, for the most part, is kind of unheard of. For a champion to go into SummerMania, defend the title, and walk out of SummerMania as a champion.
Yeah.
And Corey Lee did that by defeating not only one person, but two people in Genocide and Brandon Hobbs.
Good times. I believe that's when I tied a
Genocide to
up.
the.
You know, like you do to him too. Good times, good times.
What do you think? Not for quiet.
Let's see.
Isn't
I
that
didn't-
your
I
job to
didn't-
say, what do you think?
Get to see that match, unfortunately. But in my opinion, being able to say that you beat Chris Jones
In his
that
match.
in the ladder match to become the first ever undisputed champion.
With help.
I mean, with help or not, still being
on the
able
board
to
that I won though.
still being able to beat Chris Jones and
Oh my God!
match
Still
that you
sour
defined-
grapes, and it's been like 4
that you
years.
defined is a feat in itself.
There's still sour grapes. It's been like 4 years. That was what 2012 season,
Been stomping angrily through
2013
Through
somewhere
Welch.
there.
Been stomping angrily through Welch's backyard ever since.
Him crossing his arms back there, just stomping away. Fucking son of a bitch.
Makes
It's alright.
good grape.
Just look at it this way. That just means Corley can't beat you without any help. Genocide.
That is true.
Not true, because
Ah.
I still didn't pin you 1, 2, 3, and I had to FML you off the shed.
Yeah, but I did have to take the 187 too.
It had to take an FML off the shed, and me pinning you myself.
But I did beat Corey Lee without no help. I did give him the FML and pin him with his own move.
We've beaten each other with our own moves.
All right, back to the match.
It doesn't matter.
The factor of the Undisputed Championship is
Goes
what
back to who
catapults
balls bigger,
that,
huh?
I think, top 3 ladder matches.
Out of XCW history that you know of, what's your favorite ladder match?
I've only seen 4, so
And out of those 4,
mine would have to be the ladder match. I don't really remember the exact name of it, but it was a cage match that turned into
the Side
ladder
of
match
Madness match.
between Corey Lee and Ryan Grayson. Even though you had help again to win the match. But
I'm an asshole. We really didn't touch on this because we've already had it before, but the Money in the Bank
Right.
at Halloween Havoc.
And we'll later
I did see
on,
that.
we'll later on eventually talk about the King of the Mountain ladder match.
I
as
take that
well.
back.
Austin Chaos
That was a
won
better
that.
ladder match than yours. I'm sorry.
That's
The
okay,
best-
Ryan Grayson was in
In
this
my
one.
opinion, the best ladder match of all time would probably be the triple threat match for the birthday party. But my favorite
was myself and Cynical.
was when you gave me the chance against DTC to win the world title because it was my first world championship.
What do you think? What was your favorite TLC or
Quirky
ladder
me.
match?
Come on, Quirky.
I mean, you even came into XCW around the time that they had their TLC match.
There's been so many ladder matches I've watched, it's just hard because there's been so many good ones.
Right.
So it's really difficult to choose which one's probably been the best one that I've seen or been in.
Right.
I mean, there's obviously been some really bad, atrocious ones. I mean, there
They
have
usually
been
have
some
Matt
really
Chinchell
bad
in them.
ones.
Even the Side of Madness with me and him was. He
Oh,
just
that-
cannot do a ladder.
That was
I think-
terrible. Let's not talk about that. That was the worst, probably one of the worst I've ever seen. That was terrible, and you guys were in it. I was just, wow. God.
I think, not only me, but everybody at the table right now can agree that a ladder match in general is just amazing. The fact that you can get up there and, be hit with a ladder, thrown off of a ladder, through
Land on the ladder.
flaming tables, land on ladders off of houses, and all this stuff, and you can still come back next show and still wrestle.
The only
Walk
bad thing about that-
out of these ladder matches as champions and stuff, and still able to walk after these matches is truly amazing.
The thing that's always I've just always been like, wow, about ladder matches is what you can do with a ladder.
Yeah.
Like the fact that 2 people could climb one ladder. And if you have 2 ladders next to each other, the different variations of things you can do off a ladder. I took the teeter-totter ladder to the face
You also came up with the idea.
at Money in the Bank.
You came up for the idea with the Shelton Benjamin thing where I ran up the ladder.
And the German suplex that busted me up pretty bad, and things like that, innovative things. The Tower of Dooms. really stand out to me when it comes to TLC ladder matches.
And people do get hurt in the ladder matches.
Oh God, yeah. Ladder matches are
Cynical
rough.
threw me under the porch and ended up winning the match, but
You're right.
cut his
I
finger.
did get injured in messed up my elbow a little more in the ladder match I was in. But I mean, it just comes with the territory. You go into a match that dangerous, where you don't have no rules to protect you.
No cushion.
The only thing the referee is there for is to declare the winner. That is it.
The next time we're going to be here for Men of Honor, we're going to be talking about something that the three of you are really going to get into. And it's probably going to be one of our more fun Men of Honors. We're going to be talking about VK3 versus the Untouchables. And we're going to talk about the members of each team and that whole time period. It's going to be really fun. I'm really excited for that one. Anything to add about the ladder match before we say goodbye?
Other than the fact that it really helps depending on who you're in the match with. Because if you're in a match with some people that have never been in a ladder match before, you gotta have some veterans in there. But sometimes that doesn't even help, having some veterans in there. Because then sometimes the match still don't turn out bad.
We learned that.
Right. Fatal 4-way.
But we got the big ladder match coming up at Allegiance.
We do.
Allegiance.
You mean the next show?
Yeah, it's
Hellbound.
That's close.
That's Hellbound.
That's close.
January 23rd,
We don't
2016
even have allegiance.
at Hellbound. It's going to be Chris Jones versus Brandon Hardcore Hobbs
I'm excited.
for the XCW Championship TLC. These two have never faced one-on-one. These two have never had a one-on-one confrontation in their first time ever for the championship, nonetheless.
And shit's getting pretty deep in this feud.
And it's a TLC match.
Is it
Kicking
legit
his
shit?
wife in the face.
All
I
right,
did.
we'll do this in closing. Predictions for this month's TLC match at Hellbound.
ESP Sports Center.
Chris Jones.
Chris Jones.
Brandon's gonna go in there too hot-headed. He's not gonna be paying attention. He's gonna go in too hot-headed.
It's
Possibly.
It's all about the mind games.
Chris Jones has played some sick ass mind games going into this TLC match.
Super
so
kicking his wife.
I got some special.
my
stuff
money's
to
on
do.
Chris Jones.
Winner, the fans.
No. The winner's gonna be him. Because he gets the. Oh yeah, that's an awesome match. This is going on YouTube.
Or I get to make all the Pride video packages with
Yeah.
all the crazy shit that they're going to do.
we going to see a Omega driver up the top of the ladder this time.
So
got
I guess
some-
we're all in
We got
agreement.
some big stuff planned.
You're all in agreement to Chris Jones wins,
I
huh?
never said that.
He said the fans.
I said the fans.
Okay. But really.
Okay, well, if the fans are winning, it's obviously not Chris Jones who's going to win match. So therefore, your prediction's Brandon Hobbs.
That ladder's gonna break.
So,
if the fans
that
climb the
being
ladder.
said,
No, it'll be.
Yeah, all three of them.
It'll be Chris. It's Chris Jones' match. Chris is in Brandon's head.
yeah, too
Absolutely.
much, way too much. He let him in there too much.
All right, until next time, we talk about VK3 and the Untouchables. I'm Hazard, Kevin Harris, Corey Lee, Chris Jones, I'm Fletch. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.